Hi, in this video, we will be discussing the topic of undefined terms. You can see that I've set up the page to reflect our Cornell notes, and I would like for you to do the same. And we're going to go ahead and dive in by discussing what undefined terms mean. In geometry, the words point, line, and plane are undefined terms. This means that there's no formal definition. Instead, we agree about what they are. I want to make sure that I draw my attention to the fact that I'm discussing undefined terms in this paragraph, so I'm going to put a box around that, and I'm going to make note of it under my key terms. We're now going to discuss our three undefined terms, point, line, and plane, in detail. Okay, so you can see I've created this table, and the first thing I'm going to discuss is point. All right, a point has no dimension, and it's represented by a dot. So you can see under my image column, I've drawn 3 dots. And we have to make sure that we label correctly, because if I said, I want you to look at that dot right now, you would not know which one I was talking about. So in order to make sure that we are being specific, we label points using capital letters. Now if I say, I want you to look at point C, you know exactly which one I was talking about, the point with letter C next to it. In writing, if you were ever writing about a point, you would put a dot, and then right next to it, you'd put the name of the point you are discussing. So, in this case, I put point C. Let's go ahead and look at a line. A line has one dimension. It's basically like a bunch of points just lined up shoulder to shoulder. It's represented by a line with 2 arrowheads, and it extends without end. All right, so you can see here I've drawn a line, and I emphasize 2 of the points, although there's an infinite number of points. I've emphasized the points A and B on that line, and that's to help me name it. So if I'm discussing a line in written form, I am going to use the line symbol, the 2 arrowheads, and then 2 of the points that lie on that line. Now this line could be called AB, or it could be called BA. It means the same thing. It's important to know that through any 2 points, there is exactly 1 line. So through A and B, I can draw 1 line and 1 line only. I can draw it going up, or I can draw going down. However, I cannot draw any other line than the one we see. Let's discuss planes. A plane has 2 dimensions, and it's represented by a shape that looks like a piece of paper. So you can see over here under the image column that I have a piece of paper, like rectangle, and it has the points A, B, and C on it, as well as a capital letter M with no point next to it. And that's because we can label a plane 2 different ways. We can label a plane using the points A, B, and C. So you need to use 3 points to name a plane, not just 2. Or you can use the 1 capital letter with no point next to it. I also need to revisit, because this reminds me that we are able to name our lines using lowercase letters. So I put a lowercase t next to my line, and I could instead label this with a cursive L, that stands for line in geometry, and then that lowercase letter next to one of the arrows, which is T. Going back to planes, it's important to know that through any 3 non-collinear points, there is exactly 1 plane. And we're going to discuss what non-collinear means right now. Before we do that, I want to make sure that we note what our 3 key terms were. They were point, line, and plane. And I want to make sure I make note of these under my key terms. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and start working on our collinear and coplanar definitions. So collinear points are points that are on the same line. So here I have 2 examples. One of collinear points, so we have 3 points here, here, and here that are all on the same line. In my non-example, I have 3 points. However, you can see that they lie off of that one line, making them non-collinear. Let's discuss coplanar. Coplanar is when we have objects that are on the same plane. All right, so I have an example of coplanar. We just have this yellow plane, and we have our 3 dots on it. That's coplanar. It's difficult to draw a non-coplanar because I'm drawing on a flat surface. But what I've done is I've created an illusion where the blue plane is going up and down, and the yellow plane is going left to right. And what we see is 2 of the dots are on the yellow plane, but 1 is not, which makes this non-coplanar. Okay, that concludes the notes for this first page. You need to make sure that down here, you write 2 to 3 sentences summarizing the most important parts of this information. A brief summary, 2 to 3 sentences. And before we go, let's make sure we take note of our key term, collinear versus coplanar. Okay, excellent work. Thank you.